Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 98 of Run to the Hills podcast, sponsored by Chia Charge. Chia Charge have been fueling adventures with real food made with real ingredients since 2012. Go and check them out at www.chiacharge.co.uk. If you're watching this on YouTube, you don't need to tell me. I know I've got a beautiful south of France golden tan going on. Gary, he couldn't find the words. He couldn't find the words to my tan, so I found them for him and said, "Oh, you haven't said how tanned I look."
I was having audio issues. Is your hair blonder as well? It looks like you've been a bit...
No, it looks like a picture of glossy health from just the neck. So I did realise that really a tan on an older lady, it just shows up my wrinkles, basically.
Well, I'm not on YouTube. It's fine.
Oh, it's like, you put a special filter on my YouTube picture.
Yeah, Eddie filter.
Anyway, how are you? All I can see is this script that's coming up about, oh, it's great. I've been running all these miles while I've just been lying on a beach. Come on, tell me all.
I have to say, yeah, last week was fantastic. Really. I suppose it was the biggest week now. I suppose I'm technically in tapering for Lake 100. It wasn't the plan, and it wasn't completely unwitting either. I knew at the end of a week of when you're doing a 45-mile run on a Saturday, there's a good chance you're going to hit triple digits. So yeah, we did a 100-mile week, which was quite unusual for me. I've not done that. I think I've been bobbing around 80 miles a week. So this was a big week. Bobbing. And I did all my strength and conditioning. So that really, psychologically, that's a big tick for me. I've been smashing the massage gun on both IT bands. So that was good. And I only did one quality session this week because of St. Cuthbert's Way, and that was a good one. It was on the Thursday with everybody, and we properly rinsed ourselves in Castle Eden Dean. It was 6 times one.
Thursday, were you not really nervous? I could never have done that.
Well, it wasn't, because I kept saying to people, St. Cuthbert's was not a race for me, so I just needed to keep everything as it was. So the workout, I think the workout was supposed to be a bit earlier in the week, but the power of the group, Eddie. I just love the group more than, and there was nothing. I really enjoyed St. Cuthbert's Way. I'm glad I did well at St. Cuthbert's Way, but from a racing point of view, there was nothing in it for me. So it wasn't really that high risk doing this on Thursday. We had 6 times 1K on the trails, mid to high zone 4, so that was great. So
mid to high zone 4, yeah, right. You were topping out, teetering into zone 5, absolute blood coming from your eyeballs.
Well, it's funny early on.
Guys, just to jog this because
early on, Neil and I were like, "Oh, it's quite. It takes you quite a long time to get into zone 4, and then by rep 3, it was like boom, straight away. My watch beeped. In target. That was good. But then rolling on to St. Cuthbert's Way, which is a 45-mile race from Melrose to, well, for me, it was just Woolley. And it was awesome. Really, there's a couple of things. The way the race evolved was, all I'll say is don't do things that you don't normally do. And I had a very large can of caffeinated energy drink. I won't say the brand. And that seemed to just flip my tummy into term. When did you
drink that?
Well, thing is, I woke up on, Lisa had been poorly and didn't know what it was. It turns out I think she'd taken about a litre of the River Tees when she last did an open water swim with her friends, and she'd been wiped out. And then I started feeling a bit fatigued on Friday. So I just thought, I'll have some Red Bull on the Friday evening when I was at Woolley.
You just said what it is now as well. Do you drink that?
So I said, Red
Such stupid.
I'm so terrible.
Is that a regular thing? Is that,
I have probably had
Red Bull can.
I think the last time I had Red Bull was maybe 30 years ago.
Yeah. So, what were you thinking?
I just wanted to pick me up. I just wanted some caffeine, but being a tight arse, the massive cans were in the meal deal, so I went for the massive can of Red. It must have been about 7 cups of coffee or something in that can. And that's where
was this Friday night you had that?
I was in a car park in Woolley, just waiting for the bus to come and get
the whole thing, drinking it in a car park on a Friday night.
And then that's when the problem started. I remember, I need the toilet, so I walk up to the registration. So I was going to walk back into the registration, and without being too graphic, I thought I needed to break wind, and it was a bit more than that. And I needed a full costume.
Is this before you started the run?
This was before I even started the run.
You sharded yourself on an everyday. Had you registered for the race? Or
yes, I'd registered for the race.
You
yes.
have to go and do the registration with people going.
Well, no, I did. Yeah, I had to go back in because then I needed to go to the emergency toilet, and I kind of sheepishly snuck in. People must have thought, "What's this guy?" Luckily, I took change of clothes, so I ripped off the compression shorts and.
Did that?
I know. It wasn't pretty. But then that was the tale of, I'd say, maybe initially it wasn't too bad and quite a lot of wind. And then maybe, I can't remember the exact mileage, but for about 10 miles or maybe 15 miles, I was in and out of bushes more regular than I'd hoped. It was pretty miserable. So miserable, I nearly DNF'd at Moorbattle. I was pretty just fed up.
I think you must have got Lisa's tummy bug. It must have been a tummy bug. It can't have been a can of Red Bull that set off such a wave of...
No, I don't think I had the tummy bug. Maybe it was. And the Red Bull was the trigger, or just the kind of straw that brought the camel back. I don't know. But for about, goodness me, all the way up to Moorbattle, I was really miserable. That's about 26 miles in. Couldn't eat.
Running with a gippy tum. It's horrible.
Well, the people around me,
like, oh god.
Well, I was just breaking wind for ages.
My god, I'm so sorry. Anyone that's been around you.
And then I hit the bushes, and initially I was quite relieved, thinking, "Oh, thank goodness that's out." And then it just kept coming every few miles, and it was really frustrating because I was playing yo-yo with people. Then I was stopping I was pretty efficient. I was still doing like a 10-11 minute mile in and out of bushes. It was pretty good. But yeah, I was so down the dumps with it that at Moorbattle I thought, you know what, I'm not gonna carry on. But I changed what I was eating because I was convinced I was eating the kind of mint cake, and that was just ripping straight through me. Horrible. And after Moorbattle I moved on to more, say, Chia Charge and gels, and that went down a lot easier. And also Moorbattle had more savoury food to eat, so I had quiche and things like that. So I really changed things. And then after Moorbattle, things seemed to settle down really. So probably the last 20 miles was fine, but I was just empty. I literally just emptied the tank. And when I finished and like the adrenaline had stopped, I just felt like hollow inside. It was pretty. So I went down to Wallerend.
I've been really lucky in races I've done. I've only once been in that situation where I put 4 scoops of tailwind in a 500 milliliter bottle by mistake. And as I was drinking it, I was like, God, this is really strong. And then I realized that I drank the whole thing, and then I realized the other bottle was water. And I was like, oh, and it flipped my stomach. And I was doing a multi-day race, and it was the first day. And I was in such a world of terrible bush visiting. I just didn't know what to do with myself. And then I was like, it wasn't just a one race, because I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was like 100 miles over 3 days or something like that. And I was like, I've got to be okay tomorrow. So I've got to put food in. And I remember finishing and then being like, right, I've just got to eat. I haven't been able to, I've got to eat. And that feeling of like, there's nothing in me. There's nothing in me. And I've just run all that. So there's even less in me.
Yeah.
A bit of a dirty one.
But I have to say, the Chia Charge products for the second half of the race, so much kinder on my tummy. That I think because the mint cake, it's pretty much pure sugar, and I'm not a scientist, but there's lots of different ways you can get your sugars and fructose, and I'm not too sure what the mint cake is, but I don't think they've got any kind of sporting activities in mind.
Made by athletes for athletes. No.
But I have to say, apart from that was really frustrating.
But it's really good you pulled yourself around. And I think it's really good for people to hear that when the stomach goes south, or you can't eat, or you can't drink, and you're puking, puke and rally. That's what I call it.
Quite often this comes up on podcasts when people talk about ultras. Most of the time it passes, and you can regroup and take something positive later on. So I just it was good. Yeah, you're right. Actually, I was quite pleased that I felt pretty sorry for myself to rally at Moorbattle and go, okay. And the guy who was ahead was so far ahead. There was no like potential to be racing this person. So that wasn't really on my mind. So I wasn't like distraught that I was, say, losing a potential win because of all the time that I spent in the bushes. That wasn't really bothering me. So yeah, definitely. So Lakeland 100's nutrition going forward would be less of the mint cake, more of, and this is also another thing I did. I took a chance on what was available on the checkpoints, because that's my plan for Lakeland 100. Carry start light, and then kind of feed as I go. And I took 2 little Ziploc bags to take savoury and sweet, and that worked a treat. Yeah, so I pilfered what was at the checkpoints, and it was just jelly babies and stuff like that. So,
or anyone else that came through the checkpoints was like, all they had was like 2 custard creams and jelly baby.
Well, this came up actually.
Bags.
Yeah, about Tesco carry bags. Well, this came up on the Lakeland 100 Facebook group page about what do people do? Do they carry all their own food, or do they take them checkpoints? And some people were, I suppose, a bit kind of down about the fact that runners ahead had kind of taken all the food, and apparently though they might have taken some of the food and maybe the food that you actually wanted to eat, but there's still plenty of food available, and there's loads of food left over apparently, which goes to the local food bank. So yeah, apologies if I've taken your peanut butter sandwich, but you'll just have to put up with quiche or something for Lakeland 100 whatever's left in the checkpoint. But that was a wicked, and I'm going to do that exactly again. Start a bit lighter, pick up whatever I can estimate enough calories to kind of get me going. But I'll always keep like a stock of Chia Charge flapjacks and some gels, just like emergency. But yeah, came second. Oh, awesome. And I was thinking I was the first V40. So that was
How many trophies did you get?
I got 3 trophies. Well, I think everybody gets one of those trophies. And
3 trophies, that's ridiculous.
I know. It was great. They just kept coming. It's fantastic. But to get that,
another trophy.
Oh, I do love a trophy, yeah. But to get that and be so disciplined, I'm pretty sure you spent an hour looking at my Strava heart rate graph.
I did check.
It was pretty consistent. There's a couple of spikes up some of the hills, I suppose, and a couple of dips, maybe at checkpoints and toilet breaks. But fundamentally, it was pretty consistent. So I was super pleased with that. Maybe too much effort again for Lakeland 100. I don't know. We'll see. I'll have to say, poles, my goodness me, I'm completely converted.
We have a little moment about the poles first, because I knew when you were like describing it last week, and I was like, you're holding on a string. This all sounds really weird. I don't know what you're doing.
Oh, community came to the rescue, didn't they?
Clearly, I didn't care enough to actually help you out there. I was just laughing at you. But many people were like, yeah.
Donut.
You donut.
But it's quite, you've got, anyone who's got these Mountain King poles, you've got to give it quite a healthy tug to see the knot. So yeah, well, thanks everybody who helped me out. That saved my bacon on the day.
We got anything else? We got anything else we can't work around the house? We could just start talking about it. People might be able to mend it for us.
Yeah, put it out there. Sure, they could help. But I have to say, Eddie, it's funny because the initial feedback from the polls on my heart rate increases, which that was, every time I've been out running with the poles, that's the case. But in a strange kind of way, the perceived effort reduces. So the actual effort is more, but how I feel going up a hill is less. It's really quite strange. And then also later on in the race, I felt I was just carrying these poles when I was running on some tarmac, and I could just feel my legs starting to kind of prematurely get a bit tired, just fed up of hitting tarmac. So I just started running with the poles, and it was immediate, like just took that, whatever, there's probably somebody knows out there, it's 20%, 30%, whatever it is, that it relieves off the lower part of your body. And it really did help. And I didn't run Sunday, not because I felt sore or anything like that. I just thought, well, I'm not going to gain anything, but I felt fine. It wasn't like any DOMs or anything like that. So, and the admin of eating when running, everything was fine. All that was good. So 100% using poles on the Lakeland 100. And if anybody's out there, the pole police, I think you can't use poles in Scotland. That's the rules. I'm pretty sure I didn't use them in Scotland. I didn't bring them out until England. If anybody wants to call me out on it.
You can't use poles in Scotland. Honestly.
I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard that. A few people said that. But also the race, I think, was
Rath in the multi-day, so it can't be an international law.
But awesome. Yeah, thanks everybody from Trail Outlaws, all the volunteers. giving up their time, you know, people working through the night. I know Chia Charge, Trail Outlaws are great. They really support their crew. You know, you get free race entries, and every time I've done checkpoints in the past, they've kept us well fed with pizzas and bits and bobs. So hopefully it was the same for you guys. So yeah, really appreciate you being out there, and thanks to Trail Outlaws. Yeah, I really enjoy St Cuthbert's Way. I love the point to point. I didn't obviously go to Holy Island, but I love the idea of running to the tide, racing the tide. It's a really good format. Apart from starting a race at 12:30 at night. We'll talk about this with Trish and James about the sleep deprivation. I was completely wrecked Sunday. Came back Saturday, pretty much went to bed. And then Sunday, I was just like a zombie. So if anybody's out there, I'm definitely no coach, but from my point of view, I don't think you gain anything by losing a night's sleep and running all the way through the night too. I think the risks outweigh the...
Why would you not be in your bed when you could be, when it's there? Love my bed too much. Doing it now, probably in about half an hour.
Yeah. Anyway, so how are you doing? You should be all refreshed and everything, but no, a bit fatigued.
No, I just, though I did go for a run. So where we were staying, there wasn't any trails. We were up in the hills, but it was all, there was the odd fire track off, but I was too scared to run up it because there was loads of like, interdit, private, no entrance. Oh, yeah. And I was like, round here, I just go, yeah, whatevs, and run up the track because but I wasn't quite, I was like, not sure about doing that in an unfamiliar area and being picked up by an Olive Grove shepherd. Oh, I don't know, it could be a good book, could be a good story. But I did, yeah, I mean, kids with holidays with kids, are they holidays? Hardcore. Well, our kids were absolutely knackered, but the kids are older now, so we did spend some time sitting and sunbathing, and I read a whole book, read a really good book, read two good books. Ooh. One was a non-sporting one called The Feast by Margaret Kennedy. Really good if you're looking for a holiday read. If you like,
what's the subject?
If you love books like sort of like, what am I thinking? Love in a Cold Climate. It was written in the 1950s, so it's not recent, but it's set just after the war, and I like stories in that era. And it's about a guest house that's situated on the cliffs down in Devon, and it starts with the vicar writing the sermon to all the people that were staying in the guest house. The cliff collapses on Friday night and they all die. And then he's like, I don't know how to write this sermon. And so he says, I'm going to take you back to the week before and you're going to meet everybody who's staying in the guest house. And he says, and some people survive. So some people survive, but you have the whole week before. You don't know who's going to survive, who's going to die. And it goes through every day, and it's really cleverly written, and you invest in all these characters.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good book. And then I also read Alistair Brownlee's...
It's like Richie and Judy, this, isn't it? The book.
I love a book, though. And I haven't had a holiday with the kids being old enough that I've actually been... I mean, would be able to read like 2 pages, and then it'd be like, Mummy, watch the handstand. Look, I can hand, and I'd be like, yeah. But then I also read Alistair Brownlee's Sporting Elite book. So okay. Completely different about he interviews lots of different not runners as such, but people like Ronnie Sullivan and Chris Froome about how they perform at such a high level. And it's not looking at the science so much, though he loves the science. It's more about how they push themselves so hard year after year.
Did he come to a conclusion like there was a trait really from all these athletes?
These people, a lot of it is just the ability to focus, which we are all quite bad at. Not when I'm training, though. I can be very focused when I'm training. Yeah. The ability to focus and the ability to ignore the noise in your brain that tells you to stop. And to push yourself harder, basically, than anybody else. Really interesting. And it's the sort of book you can dip in and out. Anyway, we've digressed. I did do some running. I did quite a bit of running. I think I've run about, I haven't actually looked on, I just don't look at trying not to look at my phone really very much at all when I'm on holiday. So I haven't even looked at Strava to see how far I ran. But I tried to do this is good because when we went, I wasn't very well. And so the first day I managed 5K run. It was 40 degrees. Whatever time of the day we went out, it was absolutely boiling. It was 5K, and the second K had 200 meters climbing. So it was
in England we're having like weather warnings for 30 degrees. Do you get that on your weather forecast?
Chuck it up. just carry on. The French would be like, just stay inside, just eat more cheese inside. Don't get in it. I think, but that's the day down in the south of France. It's like that 40 degrees every single day. There wasn't a cloud. So I started off, I was able to do 5K in it, and I had to walk up the hill at the second K because it was so hot. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to explode. And then by the end of the holiday, so I was doing like 45 to 60 minutes in the morning, and I was just watching my heart rate, and it would go like 150, even though I was running like 5-6 minute Ks uphill. But I was like, this is so hot. I thought Bray was going to explode, but I could cope with it. And then I was able to do, like, in the afternoon, I'd either do another 30 to 40 minute run, and the run up that hill became my easy run in the afternoon. Or if we'd been on the beach all day, I was like, I cannot do any more sun. And I'd just aqua jog for 30, 40 minutes. I put on my Bluetooth earphones. So the kids thought that I was watching like their shows and stuff, but secretly I was listening to Bon Jovi. I then definitely ended up the holiday fitter, not that much lighter. There was a lot of burgers. But then I ran on trail this morning. I was like, oh, it's hard again, isn't it? That's hard again. It's been so nice on road just to be able to be trotting around back on the trails.
I love it though. You know, you've been active, and so you've been holiday. Yes, you've had change of scenery. You've been active during the day, and you've enjoyed the food, and it's great. I hear sometimes if you go away and you just enjoy it too much, and without a bit of activity, I
couldn't do that. What my dream is always like, you know, do some training in the morning, lie around all day, and then do a bit more training. Basically, you just eat crisps all evening, drink.
I love a run. I love an early run. From away on holiday, I love an early run, and then run to breakfast, and I just smash it.
I did miss a few breakfasts because Bryn always took the early first up. He's really good at getting up and going straight out the door. I just need like a cup of tea. I need like half an hour. So he'd go and do his run, and then he'd come back. So I go and do my run. Always got carried away, and it would end up running for too long. So by the time I come back, the kids would be like, we're going to the beach or Aqualand or wherever we're going. So then I'd be like, I can't say now, mum just needs to eat a breakfast.
Yeah.
So I find myself on the beach like an hour later, like a dried up prune, and taking a picnic, and I'd be like, can I eat my sandwich? It'd be like 9:45.
Yeah.
Mum's already digging it. Mum start, and then of course the kids would be like, oh, is it lunchtime? Can we have our picnic now? So we'd end up having to buy more lunch at like 12 because we ate the picnic at 10.
Right. That's exactly what I do.
But it was great. We had a lovely family time. Oh, I love it.
I'm so pleased you got away. I know it's not what you planned, but it's awesome you all got away.
We did talk to the passport office while we were there in Madrid, the consulate. So we've missed the slot. You gave us this slot, but we've missed our holiday. But we're actually, but we said, but we're going away again. So can we have it for it was really nice, the guy. And he was like, oh, I'm so sorry about all the delays. And I was like, you're the British consulate for France. You've got nothing to do, you know, but thanks for saying sorry. You're the only person. He said, there's something about the people that sent their passports in March, something went wrong in the system and they all got put back. So this explains a lot. Anyway, we've got another temporary passport for when we're going back to see mum and dad in August. So when the passport, after that, we won't probably travel again for the rest of the year. So we'll wait when the passport turns. As long as he can be at the spine finish, because that's going to get me to the finish. There's those three little faces going,
yeah.
Come on, mum, can I show you? Mum, look at my handstand.
Yeah.
Am I live on Facebook? Wow. Anyway, there'll be no more holiday chat. Don't worry, everybody. I'll be back to it and back into training. I was thinking about doing a race next weekend. Our local trail races are next weekend. And I was thinking about doing the 4-hour challenge where you run up underneath the telecabin, basically. Yeah. You run up and then you get the 7-minute telecabin and you've got 4 hours to do as many as you can.
Ooh, that sounds great.
I was like, I'm not bothered, Gary.
I think once you're there, when I was driving up to St. Cuthbert's Way, I was like, oh, God, just bother with this.
I can't be bothered. I was like, I could do one of the trails. And I'm like, I could just go for a nice long run by myself. And I'm not sure if it could be. But I'll have a think. I don't think it's going to be sold out. So I can even maybe decide the day before. Anyway, let's introduce our guests this week because they are crackers. They are crackers.
Well, we got to do results first.
Oh, we got to do results. People that can be motivated to do races.
But a previous guest, Katie Cars Sebastien, It's 100k, yeah. Lake Trails 100k, 11 hours 27 minutes and 23 seconds. She had a 3-hour lead overall on this one, and the new ladies course record. Whoosh!
And she sent me a few pictures, selfies of her out running. So she was having a nice day out. She wasn't.
Oh, damn these people taking a selfie.
She's a ledge. Well done, Katie. And so unassuming. Unassuming. And you never see her blasting that all over Instagram and Facebook and stuff, will you?
You know what? Yeah, you don't. There's no peppy 3 trophy flexes from... I know. I don't actually think I did. I didn't do it. I'm pretty sure I put it on my Strava, but I didn't do an Instagram.
Whatever. Flexing it on a multi-million-dollar podcast. That's all.
Yeah. Who's second? Yeah, Stephen Sandylands, 14 hours and 56 minutes and 50 seconds. So yeah, awesome run, Stephen. And I've got to give a shout out to Emil Soderlund, 15 hours and 2 minutes and 39 seconds. He was from Finland. So I saw his little blue and white flag on the results.
I've asked him to bring some goodies over for you.
Oh, yeah, some grilling pastries and some chocolate. That'd be awesome.
Maybe he lives over here. If not, I hope you had a lovely run around the Lake District. Down at St Cuthbert's Way, why aren't we reading your result out?
Well, the 100k is the big one, isn't it?
Oh, the big one. Scott Brown, new course record. Both new course records, were they? Was it women's and men's or just the men's? But I did see
apologies, Claire. I didn't double check that.
It's a good time anyway. 10 hours, 13 minutes for Scott Brown, and Claire Howard, 12 hours, 5 minutes.
He did it. He smashed the course record, and he was flexing some tattoos, Scott.
Oh, they were full on tattoos, weren't they? Right down his. I had zoomed in. You know me, I was broad. I think though, yeah, wow. I was like, whoa, that is a lot of tattoos, but he wore them well. Let's say that. He wore them well.
This week we talked to Trish Patterson and James Parsons from the recent Cockburn Events National 3 Peaks. We normally, I like to stretch our guests out over two shows because sometimes it's really hard to get guests on the show. But because these guys, they're both first and second, they both had FKTs and they were both super awesome people. So we thought we'd get them both on together. Eddie pushed for this actually after.
And I'm super grateful because you did all the organisation to find a date and time.
And wasn't it worth it to get them all together?
And I was like, no, I think it'd be good together. And then they ended up being hilarious.
Yeah.
And they were obviously had made a lovely friendship throughout the race, so it was worth it.
Hi Trish, hi James, thanks for coming on the show today. It was super tricky getting everyone together, so thanks so much for all coming together this evening, giving up your time. We ask all our guests this, for both of you actually, where are you? What's the view from your windows? And have either of you, or both of you, been for a run today?
I'm in Kendal, in Cumbria. We moved up here a year ago and we love it. And I'm looking out my window over to Scout Scar, which is one of the local hills that I run up now and again, but not today, unfortunately, because I was in London for work and I ran around a concrete jungle. It was very boring this morning and only 3 miles.
Well, I'm in the New Forest in Southampton. I've not been for a run because I'm still recovering from my twisted ankle. But the view from my house is my very messy garden, which needs mowing, and I'm too lazy to do right now.
Oh, I do like a messy garden. It makes me feel pretty good about my garden.
Organic is fine.
I know. Yeah. For the bees.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I say. Don't strim. Keep it for the bees.
Well, did you do that? They had that thing in England, didn't they? No mowing in May or something along those lines. So yeah, we didn't chop our grass.
Sounds a bit dodgy, that, Gary.
Is this a gardening podcast? Have I got that wrong?
I know.
Yeah, sorry. Moving on.
Right, we're talking today. You might be wondering why we've got Trish and James on the podcast today, and why we've worked so hard. Well, Gary hasn't done anything. I just said, I need to do it. I need them both together, please, Gary. Sort it out. Why we so wanted to talk them both together, because they are the winners of a race that we talked about 3 weeks ago, going, no one's going to do this race. No one's going to finish this race. If they do, we want to talk to them. And these guys did it, and they won it. The 3 Peaks race of Ben Nevis, Scarfell Pike and Snowden, which is about, now I don't have the exact stats, and I'm hoping either of you have exact stats, but it's about 450 miles, and I don't know how much elevation. Do you either of you know?
The medal here, just to.
Oh, here we go.
Goodness.
Oh my God, James has just got out the biggest gold bit of bling, which he
That's a
had
heavy
to
flex.
hand. But within what? That's 8 minutes of recording. He's brought the medal out.
There you go.
How much elevation did it have in the race, James?
Oh, well, the three peaks themselves were, about 3,000 meters, I think. But total, oh God, because there's a lot of running in between those three peaks as well. So I don't know, quite a few thousand meters, yeah.
Thousands and thousands. We don't need to count them. But before we go into the nitty gritty of the race, can you tell us how you found yourself on the start line for that sort of adventure, where the sort of your journey of running had come from that enabled you to stand on the start line thinking that you were ready to complete that sort of challenge? Trish, do you want to start us off? Because you've got an interesting story. I know we've done our research.
I come off I'd done the winter spine, and that was good fun. And I kind of like big distances. I think big distances work better for me, mostly because I'm really slow and stubborn. So that kind of grizz through mentality. So that long distances tend to work better for me. I saw the National Three Peaks race come up on Facebook, and I was actually thinking of doing Dragon's Back race this year. But I saw that and I thought, I've got to do it. I mean, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's just an amazing thing to say you've done. I mean, the amount of people who've run the actual distance between the three peaks is probably very, very small. And I just thought it looked like an awesome adventure. I'd heard lots of stuff about Mark's events, mostly that they're miserable and hard, and that also attracted me to it. So I emailed him, asked if I could come. He said yeah, and then sort of just went from there, really.
Am I right in that you'd done the spine this year and then you'd done this only a few months later?
Oh no. So I did the I did the winter spine in 2020, just before it kicked off. So I was probably one of the only people to get a race in that year. My races and the build up to it were, I did the Sea to Sky Extreme in Cyprus, which was 80 miles and about 6,000 meters of elevation. I did that as my kind of build up race, and basically just constant. Oh, and I did the Arc of Attrition in January before that as well. It's kind of races to lead up to it.
How has this endurance developed throughout your life, Trish? Have you always been into endurance sport, something as a kid you enjoyed?
I've always done a lot of just different varieties of sport. I was in the army and I played a lot of football, rugby. I did a lot of Nordic skiing as well, which was, it's just great training. Lots of skiing up hills, which is like serious type 2 fun when you're trying to ski minus 15 in Lycra. So that's my dream.
It's my dream.
Yeah, that's character building stuff right there. I only started doing serious distance though when my girls were born. I've got twin girls; they're 6, and I realised that the further I ran, the more space and time alone I got. So that's when I transitioned to hundreds of miles very, very quickly. To get some alone time, really.
Well, I do think as well, though, it's just good bang for your buck, isn't it? Because if you can't make the effort of training and going for a race, you might as well do something epic, because it sort of scratches the itch a bit as well, and then you're quite happy to not do anything for months on end as well.
Yeah, that's totally the case. I think with me, I tend to do two biggish races a year, and I don't really do much in between that apart from training. And I think that works quite well, like you said, in kind of scratching that itch and doing something that you feel is like mega and kind of you've hard earned your ability to sit on the sofa and eat nachos and for the rest of for a good 2-month period.
I totally get that. I love that. And then you also feel pretty mega when you do the school run as well the next week, when you're like, oh yeah, I just did that. People are like, you're right, when you're hobbling a bit and you're like, oh yeah, I just did a little 250 miles.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
I'm not sure people know that I do much. I mean, people know I run, but I think they just think I'm a bit weird. Like, it's funny because the kids' friends will often, if I'm wearing flip flops, will go, "Oh, I really like your nail polish," and I'm like,
I don't think people understand when you run like this kind of distance, 450 miles. I think it's pretty tricky for non-runners and non-endurance athletes to comprehend those kind of numbers.
We had so many questions, Trish, didn't we? Actually, when we were doing the event, from people who were just walking like the West Highland Way, especially. Yeah. What's you doing? We've seen you like wearing these race numbers, and when you told them what we were doing, they kind of like it didn't really register. They didn't really understand. Like, that's not, people don't do that. You know, can you actually tell me what you're really doing? But then when it sunk in, they were like amazed, and it was really interesting those first 2 days, just telling people what we were doing. For sure.
Did you get to the point when you're like, I can't, I'm too tired to explain?
Exactly. Got really bored of saying hello. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, hello. James, tell us a little bit about your running journey and how you found yourself on the start.
Okay, so it's probably a very familiar story to many. Like, I was mid-30s, overweight, and had to do something about it. And I joined a local tri club, a great tri club called Freedom Tri in Hertfordshire, and just got some really good encouragement from some good people. But then soon realised I was rubbish at swimming and rubbish at cycling, but running was okay. So focused on the running, stayed part of the tri club for about 5 years, but just focused on the running, didn't do any triathlons. And then found that I was coming up to the lakes a lot more to do events like Lakes in the Day, Cumbria Way Ultra. Did the Northern Traverse this year, which was my first multi-day race, and that was amazing. So we moved up to Kendal last year, and as a family, and we just love it up here. Just spend a lot of time outdoors, climbing, walking, running. So how do I find? So with the National Three Peaks Ultra, yeah, like Trish, I was on Mark's group on Facebook, and he put this up at the end of 2019. And it's like, wow, I've got to do this. And it's so far away that I won't actually have to do it. Yeah. It like feels like 2022, it's like, it's so far away. I would have signed up now and just like, wow, yes. And then time slowly moved on, as it always does. And it came to the realization, actually, shit, this is coming up this year. Northern Traverse was cancelled twice for COVID, and this, like, in the space of two months. And I was really nervous going into Three Peaks, just thinking, am I capable of doing this? Because you just don't know.
So had you done anything mega? Because Trish obviously has got a background of quite a few epic, she sort of knew what she was, I imagine you don't really know what you're getting into in this sort of thing, but she's had a little taste of chaffing and all that sort of terrible things.
He was part of an epic Bob Graham support crew.
Oh yeah, exactly. That was yeah, that was best.
Oh, Gary, pipe down. Had you done any sort of like 100-milers or anything like that leading up into this?
Well, so nothing as impressive as Trish, but I had done the Northern Traverse, which is like 190 miles.
Yeah.
That was just over 2 days, and that was my first multi-day.
Was that race. This year you did it before?
That was at the beginning of April.
Oh, that was brave. That was brave.
But it wasn't by design, because I signed up to do that in 2020, but because of
in 2002,
some virus that no one knows about now, cares about anymore. That was cancelled. Yeah, that was cancelled for 2 years running. So it's actually worked out quite well in terms of the Northern Traverse was like a test run for the Three Peaks.
Last long run.
Exactly.
That last long 90-minute run you do the week before.
You did really well, though, James. I think you. I don't know if I'm correct in this, but you were 6th in the Northern Traverse. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Really, and we ran as a group. I think you had Lisa on, didn't you, a few weeks ago? Yeah. And I listened to that episode. It was great to relive that, listening to Lisa. And she's a great runner. And we ran together. I think four or five of us were running together for at least a day. And that really helps. When you get into that group, you get a good banter going. It really helped. And then at Richmond, which is about 50 miles to go, I think, we kind of all had our different sleep strategies and then went off at different times, and that was where the race fell apart for me in a way. When you're like left on your own to your own devices. But yeah, it was a great experience for sure.
I loved it on the Cockburn Events website for this race. It's classed as 11 out of 10 for hardness, the National Three Peaks. I just thought that was awesome. But I'm always curious. I can only comprehend training-wise, say, a 100-mile race, and that's epic. I appreciate that. But how do you approach like a 450-mile event? You know, would you, for example, I know this is quite controversial, but would you say practice, say, sleep deprivation and things like that? I'm really interested how you approach that side of the training for such a race.
I didn't approach it any differently than I had done for Northern Traverse, because I don't think the payoffs are worth like breaking yourself over a weekend and then knocking out a week's worth of training. So I didn't do much sleep deprivation stuff because I just didn't think it was worth it. So just long back-to-back weekends and testing out kit. So normally I wouldn't do a long run for more than 3 hours, but have a few hills in there. But then maybe once or twice go a bit longer, just to see how your kit works. See if something on your bag flapping is like going to piss you off after like 6 hours or something. So, you know, I wouldn't say I trained very differently to this than I would do for a 100 miler, to be honest, just because I don't think it's worth the impact it'll have on the rest of your training.
Did you have any kits? You were saying about things flapping around on bags, but would you be there with the scissors and a sharp knife modifying bits of kit?
Actually, so my role model for all this has been a guy called Ian Keith, an Irish ultra runner. He's done Northern Traverse. He's won so many things. He used a lot of raid light stuff, and he has this raid light backpack, and he has these two. I'll just show you.
Really high level bottles.
These two high bottles. And I thought, right, I'm going to try this, and I did an overnight run in Kendal with these two big bottles next to me. And they were just getting on, always like smacking into my face. I just couldn't get on with them at all. So I had to change that and just had to buy some flasks. So that kind of thing is really vital to do those like longer runs with your kit to find out exactly what works for you and what doesn't, you know?
What about you, Trish? How did you train for a 450-mile race?
I treat all big distances at pretty much the same. So train for a 100-miler. I don't change my training. So my longest run will generally be about 30 miles over whatever terrain that I'm looking at. And then most of my kind of peak week will probably look circa 100 miles for peak week. I tend to do quite high mileage, but I'm not, it all depends on the terrain and the elevation. So I'm not hard over on it. Just generally it's circa 100 miles, depending on.
Would you do like, did it say like a threshold run or an interval session?
Yeah. So I tend to do maybe 2 track sessions a week. So, and I'll do double training days and a long run, probably 20 miles plus. All my other runs are very, very low intensity though. So I get the big miles up by doing very easy runs to do that. With the sleep deprivation, I feel like I've done my time there. I did 10 years in the army and I've got twin girls. Trust me, I know all about sleep deprivation. So I don't train for it. I don't think it gives you, like James said, I don't think training for it gives you much bang for your buck. You know, I think it's worth understanding in a race how you feel, but I kind of feel like I've got that experience now, and I know how to kind of work what works best for me in that regard.
I think, like you both said, the risk against reward for sleep deprivation, and even maybe going longer than 30 miles in any one run. You're not going to be able to do your 200s and 400s down the track if you ran for 30 miles on a Sunday. Yeah. It's all about that balance, and I think trusting your body and understanding when your body's tired, and but you've got to do that, week by week. So. What about strength and conditioning?
Yeah, so I do strength and conditioning, core work. I have let myself go a bit, as we all do with strength and conditioning. I would say as I tend to get more miles in, that might go. But I'm pretty good at doing at least one a week. Yeah. I would say with strength and conditioning.
How about you, James?
I stick a 3-year-old in a rucksack and we go and walk up the hill. That's and then I get the kid out of the house as well, so it kind of like keeps my wife happy. So I tried these things. I try to do 15 minutes here and there, and I'll go for a period of doing it, and then I'll go for a period of not doing it. It's like I'd love to be able to find something that would work for me over a long period of time, but it's more piecemeal, really.
And how, James, I suppose both of you, but James first, how did you feel when you towed the line? Were you fit and ready, or did you have any? I'm really conscious that for, say, a 450-mile race, I wouldn't want any niggle because I think it would be exposed at some point during that race. How did you feel on the start line?
Well, I think there's always a niggle somewhere doing this kind of mileage and stuff. There's always something. I went into it with really dodgy heels and Achilles, and I was a bit concerned about that. But you just got to go with it. And I think I felt like I was in a good condition. I was more nervous about the distance. I've never done anything like that before. I was going to be happy if I got into the lake, so I wouldn't have to get picked up very far. I would have hated having to call the white lads, go, can you come and pick me up, please, darling? No, so I wanted to get...
And that's the one beginning with S, but it's not the good one for you.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I just wanted to get back to the lakes and see where we were. Like 2 peaks. It was a 3 peaks challenge, but 2 peaks were good enough for me. But
that's super interesting. Then you had a 2, because I would say, I know people who've done a long race, and they've kind of had it, oh, well, if I got to 60 miles, that would be good. And then they stopped at 60 miles. But for you to have 2 peaks, but then keep going for the third, I think that's it. That's amazing.
Well, I think how the event turned out, it wasn't quite how I was expecting, in that it wasn't a stage race, but there was enough recovery time built in every day. So we were able to recover because the checkpoint the next day didn't open at until a certain time. So you had to be clever with how you manage your time and manage your sleep. And that just allowed some inbuilt recovery because you were having to have a kind of mandated rest. And then we got to Frodsham, that is just outside of Wales. And basically Mark said, okay, forget the last checkpoint, 80 miles up and down Snowden, fill your boots, off you go. So it was like a 370-mile warm-up with an 80-mile race at the end.
Brilliant.
That's all Gary wanted to know, was like how the end happened.
We're going to talk about this further on, but yeah, on the Facebook group, as it evolved, it really looked to me, and I must admit, I've never fancied one of the Mark Cookbane's events, but this, it really, really did appeal to me because it just looked like a road trip. Or this kind of band of brothers together for whatever, like hundreds of miles. And then I got the impression like you just kind of did a little duck and shimmy, James, and then off you went up Snowden and left them at that last bit. But yeah, it really looked amazing.
Trish, do you have the same vision of that, of what that race was like?
The interesting thing about that race was that, there was nobody who towed the line there who shouldn't have been there. Like, they were all good runners there, all good, solid endurance runners with, good backgrounds. And I felt that actually, as we did progress through, I was just really amazed. Like, there were some really, truly inspiring people there. And it did really feel like that kind of like band of brothers type, that kind of like ethos. It was nice, actually. The way it worked with the checkpoints, the people who were kind of getting in first were getting caught up. We all kind of came together at the checkpoints at various times, and that kind of like catch-up effect. Although I was really, I was a bit annoyed about that at first because it didn't work well in terms of my sleep. My strategy in races is predominantly based on my, the fact that I don't need as much sleep and I can push forward. But it was really, really good, and actually. It did work in my favour with the recovery times in the end. After day 2, when I had my ankle, because I did need that recovery. If I'd have just continued grinding every day, I think I'd have suffered a lot more with my ankle. But it made it much more manageable, and I was able to kind of maintain an average pace as such, to get through.
What did you do to your ankle?
I twisted. I sprained my ankle day 2 on the West Highland Way, which was really annoying because we just done like the technical bit.
Yeah, so how did you do that? Where were you on the West Highland Way?
So I was with Mike, and I basically...
Are you chatting?
we're chatting away, and we just done a kind of technical bit. We're just walking in a lovely, you know, just a nice little part, and I just went straight over on it, and it just went, you know, that horrible, and I wailed like a good in. I mean, he must have thought I'd broken my ankle. But yeah, I mean, I laid there kind of whimpering for a bit, and then Tremaine came past and he was like, "You hurt yourself?" Like, yeah, and he's like, "Just run it off."
I love Tremaine.
Tremaine style.
Yeah, just run it off. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I hobbled about for a bit, you know, and Mike and Tremaine were like, "Are you okay?" Like, yeah. But
well, you can walk quickly, Trish. I mean, your walking is faster than my running on like certain days. It's amazing.
Yeah, I needed that walk after that. It was really annoying.
So how far apart were the checkpoints? I don't know. Mark's events just seem so loosey goosey. I've been amazed there were checkpoints. Was it like, were there set checkpoints? Did you know what was coming?
The biggest one was 63 miles was the biggest one, and the shortest one was about 30 miles. Is that right, James? About 30 miles?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And they, you know, in between 50, 54, 40 something, they were all a little bit hodgepodge.
It was massively front loaded, wasn't it? So we did the West Island Way. So we did the West Island Way in 2 days, and then we did Milngavie to Carlisle Way. No, sorry, we took halfway down to Carlisle on the 3rd day, which was about 60 miles. So if you made it through the first 3 days, then basically you were going to make it through to the end. So the biggest attrition was in those first 3 days. We lost like 13 people. Then after those 3 days, we only lost one guy because he had blisters bigger than his head. So it was actually, once you got past those three days, then yeah, you could manage it. But the checkpoints, you wouldn't call them checkpoints.
I was going to ask this. I saw a photograph of somebody sleeping in the toilet.
That was me.
That was you.
Yeah. So this is actually a funny story. Just indulge me for a second. So, as Trish said, there was a race to get to the checkpoint each day, because then you'd choose the best sleeping position in a pretty
okay. So then you rested at the checkpoint for everybody else to come in. Was that the kind of deal? Okay.
Pretty much. And so I would always try to get to the checkpoint first, so I could choose the best sleeping place in a village hall or a football changing room. So this football changing room, we got there, and it was either in the showers, in the toilet. I found a referee's changing room, which is like a solo room with its own shower. So I thought, yes, this is my room for the night. So got myself in there.
Team player right there.
I know. Everyone else came in. People were looking in the room.
You were like, I'm the ref.
Exactly. You know, red card. But then Trish came in. Trish definitely fancied this room. I was like, I'm going to hold fast. I'm not going to give this up. So I did let her have a shower. I know, in the private shower.
I was getting my bit off and getting in that shower.
But then I made it clear that she had to leave after that. But then it was later in the corridor where I saw Sarah, the only other female runner, and she looked so miserable, sleeping in the corridor outside my private room, my suite. And I thought, I'm not going to sleep here tonight if I know that she's outside looking like a homeless person. So I said to her, okay, Sarah, would you feel better if you had my room? And I was thinking, please say no. Please say no. She was, yes, absolutely. Up, got all her stuff, straight in there like a shot. And then by this stage, everyone else was in, and the best places in the changing rooms had been taken. And all that was left for me was the toilet. Yeah. And
you tried to do a good thing. You tried to do a good thing.
The real story. The real story, he got shamed by the
we knew that, we could tell, but he was like, quick, let me tell my story before the real story comes out.
The key thing is that he gave it up because he thought, Sarah, female, she looks tired. Hello, I was there like 3 hours before.
You'd spent the previous 3 days whipping my ass, so I'm not giving it up. I was in worse way than you were. Come on.
Yeah, Trish didn't need any special attention. I can tell that.
I got in there with Sarah afterwards. I kind of got in there and was like, right, So a little ensuite.
Oh, I just think the thought of sleeping on a toilet though, that they do those, they do the UV light in the toilet, James.
I haven't tested yet, but I'm sure I've got like an STD from sleeping in there, like herpes or something. I
honestly wasn't the worst checkpoint though. I thought the worst one was that we went to some kind of club thing, was it some kind of Catholic club thing? I don't know. We put in one small room, and the stink in that room, the smell was like something. It would knock you out if you just turned up and and been exposed to it for a week.
But this adds to the romance of the event, and I wouldn't change it for anything now, because it just makes, because it made us closer. It gives us a story to talk about, so it all added to it for sure.
Could you? I know so these checkpoints where you could sleep the night, but technically the clock was still ticking, so you didn't have to stop if you felt able to carry on.
No, but the next day's checkpoint opened at a certain time.
Okay, so
I learned that I sat outside a checkpoint for 2 hours one time. So I thought, okay, so you just got to kind of manage that better. His mark team was very small. He had and it's all made up of volunteers, like a handful of them. So they couldn't manage the race if it got too stretched out. So they kind of wanted to control us in a stage race style. But I was just really thankful that they let us go over the last 18 miles. That was the perfect way to finish, really, wasn't it, Trish? I think.
Yeah, it totally made the race. I think if we'd all gone with the original plan, everyone would have been at the base of Snowden for 4 o'clock in the morning, and then it would have just been a crazy full race up and down. So I think it was much better that we were able to kind of push the last 80 miles and just make it a bit more of an actual race, I think, for sure.
You talked a little bit about a few niggles maybe going into the race, and now the ankle sprain. But apart from that, we'll start with Trish this time. Trish, how did the body hold up over the race? Anything? How did you feel as the race progressed? Any good stories, basically, can tell us? How did you manage the ankle?
And going into the race, I actually had a conversation with my sister. She's like, oh, this is going to be a good race for you. It's like one of the first races you've done where you've not been ill, you haven't got any injuries, you're going to nail it. And yeah, I felt really good. Day one felt really good, really strong, comfortable. Day two, yeah, really, really good again. 18 miles into day two, went over on my ankle. And then it was just a bit of a grind for the next few days. Day three, I ended up, I had, for some reason, it was really hot that day, wasn't it, James? And I had like epic nosebleeds that just wouldn't stop bleeding. I looked like I'd been in like a car crash or something. So whenever anyone saw me, they would like give me a proper stare, be like, "Are you okay?" But yeah,
James. Did you keep going? It was James, that guy just ahead.
just my nose wouldn't stop.
I bored your nose into bleeding. Yeah,
and I ended up having to put like tissues up it and run with tissues, so that was a bit of a pain.
Did that ever happened to you in the past?
No, it never happened to me before. I just think it's probably just muck up there, to be fair, because it's so hot.
As if you didn't look strange enough, running through Glasgow city centre, and you got like tissue coming out. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, a bit of a state. But I tend to after day 4 and 5, I was still pushing with that ankle to run on it, and I made a conscious decision to really tone it down and just do what I needed to do to get to the checkpoints to save my ankle for as much as possible for the last one, the last big push. And so I'd stopped taking paracetamol. It was all taped up and stuff like that. But yeah, the last push, the last 80 miles, I was like, yeah, just get some paracetamol down, get some extra strapping on, and go for it. The biggest thing I found afterwards, after the race, was I'd lost a huge amount of weight. I lost like 8% of my body mass. It's interesting because I've read quite a few things in terms of pain, like how pain affects your calorie intake, and lots of people say different things, but lots of theories that in terms of by being in pain you actually burn more calories. So that was really interesting. So I'm basically just eating nachos now and ice cream.
Have you managed to put it back on?
I've put a couple of kilos back on, but I mean, I lost nearly 5 kilos, and I didn't have that to lose in the first place. So I mean, you can see it in my hands and my arms. I look like Skeletor.
Sheesh, wowzers.
Yeah. I think the big thing was, like, I tend to rely on checkpoints, eating a lot at checkpoints, and it just wasn't really doable. It's, you know, like pot noodle, living, like, it's basically 8 days on pot noodles.
But army rations, so you've 10 years of army rations. Were pot noodles not like glory, golden?
The thing is, like, with rations, they're packed full of calories, and you're just getting processed, you know, refined carbohydrates, and it's not enough to, you know, to give your body what it needs. And the protein as well, you need that protein to rebuild and to continue going. So, and it's fine, you know, can grind through that, but if I was going to do it again, I'd realize that, you know, I definitely need to be eating much more in the checkpoints.
Trish, don't forget Karen's pasties at the waypoint each day. Karen, who is one of the volunteers, she's a real legend, but she would bring out I think it's meant to be ice, but the ice had all melted. So basically, there's these pasties just floating in water. That was our kind of halfway food.
It's like, a snack.
Oh my God.
That is added to the spice of the event. Yeah, it's good.
Gary and I will normally anything, and anyone suggests will go, well, that sounds nice, but that really doesn't.
No.
Sure. What about your general health, James? How did it go? How did the body hold up for the race?
It was fine. I think I had a bad shin for a couple of days there. I wasn't used to so much road. I think that had a bit of impact on my joints. So that I was managing that for a couple of days, but then that kind of just went away with a bit of strapping. It's funny, isn't it, how you can run these things off?
I love injuries like that. Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
Exactly.
It's like center of your thoughts, and then all of a sudden it's not there anymore.
And it was thinking, am I going to be able to? So running through the lakes, it was when at its worst, and I was worried, am I going to be able to continue? Like, this is actually that bad? But the next day, you know, put a bit of strapping on there, and it was fine. So that was good. So yeah, not really any physical problems apart from that we didn't have a shower. Like one shower in like 9 days. That was kind of like quite.
I got 2.
Actually, you got 2. Oh yeah, well, yeah.
Nobody's mentioned chafing yet. Been a lot of miles covered here.
Yeah, how did you? Because I get chafing when I step out the door for a 30-minute recovery run.
I'm pretty good at chafing, so I didn't get any chafing. No chafing. I just know what works for me. And what I did get were because I changed how I was moving, obviously because my ankle, I got blisters in places that I wouldn't normally get blisters. And I batted my toes a couple of times. My big toes are, I would say, end of life before going into the race anyway. So I ended up getting quite a bad infection, which I was just kind of taping over, you know, as you do, like it will work out. And then, it ended up a couple of days after the race, you know, I had like yellow pus coming out. And
the smell began to...
The smell, oh man, the smell was something else. I've had a lot of feet stuff, and that was the worst for sure. But yeah, I was like kids to school and like, yeah, put your shoes on, guys. Mummy's just got to drain her toe again.
It's good for them to see that.
So, I didn't get any chafing either, but there was one guy, Cedric, who I caught up with, who was having the worst chafing episode ever. On his bum, and I ran within 10 miles into the checkpoint trying to like take his mind off of it, but he tried everything from like dock leaves to sitting in puddles and all kinds of things. It was like that bad.
Oh, Cedric, can you share that on the podcast now?
when it comes on though, isn't it, it's just like there's nothing you can do about it. How can you believe yourself? It's impossible, isn't it? So
still waiting for the answer to that.
Make a lot of money, Eddie, if we can solve that problem.
Can cure my chafing.
There must have been so many highs and lows. But yeah, Trish, is there any standout highs and standout lows that you could share with us?
One of the things that made me laugh the most actually was I caught up to Sarah one day, and she'd just come out of this service station, and she's I think she's vegan or vegetarian, but she came out. She's like, I've just had a bacon sarnie.
Oh my goodness! She might not want you to share that.
Yeah.
Tell all.
I just thought it really showed like what this race does to you. Like, you know, obviously hadn't had a bacon sarnie for, I don't know, years and years probably. And
wow.
and then had to get a bacon sarnie down.
I've seen it quite often on the trails. Vegetarians turn into meat at desperate times.
Yeah. I mean, no judging. You know, you've got to do what you've got to do. I mean, I was just eating my own body, so who knows what I said.
You've got that. Yeah, you got.
Much
you
better.
should have gone and got the bacon sandwich.
I know. Gone in there with her. But that, you know, but there was lots and lots of funny moments. You know, and there was just great banter, I think, between everyone. Just really, really good banter. Nobody took themselves too seriously. I think the lowest point for me was day 6 when I was really struggling with my ankle a bit, and I had to, you know, kind of like I always knew I was going to go the distance, but I wanted to do it competitively as well, and knowing that I wasn't quite as fast as James, but you know, kind of coming to that realization that he was going to whip me.
The ref, as we call him.
The ref.
The referee's what? Yeah.
What about yourself, James? Yeah, highs and lows.
So I just want to reiterate that, really, that kind of feeling of camaraderie. So ran a lot with Trish, guy called Mike, Dill, Tremaine, and also Adrian, who was the father figure, because he was literally like the oldest man that's ever run the 3
And he's nails. He's just
he's hard as nails.
Is it Adrian Martin? Is it?
Yeah, exactly. So he's from your way, isn't he? Yeah. He's a top bloke.
Yeah.
And we had that. So we really kind of kept each other going. Had some really good conversation. I've laughed a lot. I've learned a lot about various races from Dill and from others. But then that all meant nothing on like the last day. That was like, right. So that was a high, but then also having that race on the last day was also a high point. And I wasn't keeping an eye on the tracker too much, but then I did want to see where I was in comparison to the others as I approached Snowden. And it was a bit dodgy in the valley, the tracker tech. And at one point it looked like Chin Yong, who was right behind me. And that was at the foot of Snowden. And I legged it up Snowden as much as I could, walking. And I thought he was always behind me. So I wasn't having sleep deprivation. I wasn't seeing things, but I was hearing things. I thought I could hear him coming up this mountain. And I tell you what, I got to the top. He wasn't there. I came to, and when I saw him at the halfway house on Snowden, it was the biggest relief, because at that point I knew he couldn't catch me. I went to him. I gave him the biggest hug ever, because I knew then that I was bad.
And he thought, James, what a lovely guy. What a lovely guy.
He listens to this podcast.
So yeah, that was the low. Was giving up my changing room to 2 girls.
Women.
Should have been a bit harder, really. You know,
what are they doing in these ultra races? These women leaving their children.
People always want to know about kit. I suppose any standout bits of kit, but I'm really curious what your footwear choice was over such a journey.
So I did the whole thing in ultras. I did the whole thing in ultras.
Oh, awesome. Oh my God, we found our ultra guy.
We spoke to ultra guy just yesterday, actually.
Which did you do?
So I did the mountains in Lone Peaks, and I did the trail and a bit of road in Mont Blanc.
Oh my goodness, that's the shoes we talked about.
Because I've got it here. He told me he's going to send me the Lone Peak to try for the spine.
Yeah,
Would you
I think, well, depending
or
on
the Olympus?
summer spine or winter spine.
Winter.
You might need a bit more grip. That's one thing
Olympus.
I think Ultra
Yeah,
needs. I think Ultra needs a proper fell shoe, which I don't think it has right now. But yeah, I did a lot of road in the Provision. Is it the Provision? Anyway, so I've got wide feet, and with the Northern Traverse, I wore some Innovates, and I thought my race was done at Patterdale, which is like 20 miles in, because they tore my feet to shreds. And so that was a choice. And because they're like slippers. The Lone Peaks are my favourite shoe. They just feel like slippers. So yeah, they're my go-to shoe for long stuff, for sure.
I think a lot of non-UK brands, they struggle with the. I think we took some from Hawker a while ago, and they had. I think they're called. I've blanked on the name, but it was quite an aggressive grip. But their kind of demographic isn't predominantly UK athletes, and they just didn't sell. The shoe didn't sell that well, so maybe that's what Ultra are thinking too. This aggressive fell shoe just wouldn't be worth them.
I guess it's a very niche market, isn't it, Gary? I mean, in a way. So you can understand it, but I'd love them to do one. That would just completely.
Trish?
For the trail, I use the Scott's Ultra Track. I really, it depends, on wet rock, they can be a bit slippy depending on the terrain, but
they can give you the ride of your life on a bit of wet rock, can't they?
I need that. But I find them, I've probably done about 600 miles on those shoes, and I find compared to, not to like brand shame or anything, but other shoes, they go the distance for me. They've still got great tread. Like there's no holes in them. So I wore those for the trail. I don't really have running shoes, so I had to get some like proper ones. And so I use the Hoka Mac 12s. I want to say. I don't even really know what I'm talking about. Shoes. They were Hoka, and they were robust. I would say robust enough to do high mileage, and they stood fine. They felt good. Apparently, there's some carbon plate in there, but I don't really know. It's just
Did you have to carry all your kit, or did you get your kit at the checkpoints?
So we basically had to carry what you needed for the day, and then you get access to your drop bag in the evening. So I wore the Salomon vest, the 12 vest. And I love that vest. I think it's great. And it's a really good bit of kit that they've pushed out there. Like I wear it for practically any race. It's just awesome the way it works. And that was pretty much what that was everything I needed, really. Took everything I needed, waterproofs, just in case it hoofed it down with rain. But other than that, I tried to go as kind of as light as possible, really. The biggest issue I found was water. So just getting, like, food was fine, but on the hot days, it was quite a struggle doing those distances and getting water refills, because you weren't really supported. You might, you get at the halfway point, you might get some water. You'll get some water, but yeah, like 60 miles is a long way.
There's plenty of water in the pasty by the sound.
Yeah, there's a lot of water in that pasty. That was the biggest thing, making sure you had enough water to get through.
And what were the rules as far as, if you ran past it? Well, you actually you've answered it earlier. The other racer went in and got a bacon sandwich. So you could go into a shop and buy a.
Yeah, you could go into shops, do whatever you like, basically. So the biggest thing was that when we're going through, it was sometimes the distances between the, for example, the villages might be like 10, 15 mile. And I got to, I think actually, James, the shop that you guys got to just before me, that one on that day 3, you walked out the shop. I went to walk in it, and he shut it, and he wouldn't let me in.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I was like,
and James went like this in front of you.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh God, I got so much water. I'm going to pour it on my head.
Absolutely. I had 2 lollies and I ate them both. I didn't give one to Trish. Yeah.
Chucked up in the bin because you'd had enough.
Yeah.
Oh, it's too much. Too much for me, all this water. I can't carry this. James, was there any other bits of kit?
So I had a Raid Light bag because Ian Keith has a Raid Light bag. 24 litre. What I find, I went with a bigger one because if you pack something too tight, you're always scared to go into it. And I've had that in the past where I've packed a smaller vest too tightly, and then it just takes me too long to get everything out, and I don't want to go into it. If you're wet and cold and you're scared to go into your pack, that's a recipe for disaster. So I think it'd be better to have a bigger pack that still was quite snug and felt good, but I knew I'd be able to get in and get stuff without having any stress. So that was good. But yeah, so no other real bits of kit. We would have drop bags, obviously, and that drop bag deteriorated. The smell from the drop bag at the end of the 8 days was something else. You just put your head in it, it's like, wow, chemical weapon.
Did you have like fresh kit every day, or did you just go?
Pretty much. I actually took a clean pair of pants for every day, but some people were washing their pants, weren't they, Trish, every day? So like, yeah. That was you.
You only needed 2 pairs, didn't you? Front, change it, front, back, side. Isn't that some sort of army rule? You can wear the same pair of pants 4 days.
My drop bag didn't smell because I put my dirty stuff in a bag, James, in a bag.
That's what I mixed my clean and dirty stuff all like.
James, admin.
Yeah, there's a party in there. It was really good.
Admin is not a place in China.
There were keeping with the bag as well, so we were only allowed 16 kilos in the drop bag.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so it's actually 16 kilos isn't really that much.
No, especially when you've got your food.
Yeah, I mean, basically you're packing for 10 days, potentially 10 days worth with your food. And I packed quite a bit of food as well. So yeah, that really limited what you could take.
I saw that you both got an FKT out of this. Was that something you were aware of before the race, or was it just a nice coincidence after the race?
James knew. James had it on his radar.
No, so I think it's really important to say, actually, because there's a bit of, not controversy, but the actual fastest known times for the 3 peaks, walking or running, is a lot faster than we did it. So a walker called Anne Sayer, she walked it in under just over 7 days in the 70s. And she would get it verified by policemen on streets. That's how you got stuff verified in those days. But it's accepted that she has the fastest walking time. So you can't really have a running time, an FKT, that's slower than the walking time, right? So I think it should be the fastest known time on foot. Yeah. I guess what we would say, what I would say is that there was a fastest known running time that existed, and everyone on that event that finished it, 17 of us, absolutely smashed it by 12 hours at least, and me and Trish by a day. So I think it's fair to have that recognised as the modern running FKT, but it's definitely worth acknowledging the fact that people have done it a lot faster than we did. Yeah.
But yeah, Trish, have you got any appetite for going back then maybe and trying to get the fastest time?
I just think they're different things, there's a big difference between having a supported effort, and we've had to put ours down as supported, and we had cracking pot noodles, and we slept in great facilities, and the medical staff were top. I just think with FKTs, they're just lines in the sand, for someone else to go out and smash it. And it was really great for us to have that the previous FKT there, because it gave us something to aim for, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's not about you might be the fastest for a day, but come on, realistically, as we went out there and we did it, there's hundreds of thousands of people out there who can go out and smash that time, and that's all they are. They're just lines in the sand for someone else to go out and beat that. And I'd love to support someone else doing that. I might go and have a crack at it myself, the fastest supported time.
Do it.
The future, I think it 100% could be done. If anything I got from that, I definitely think we could do. I think most of the runners who did that could do it in 7 days.
Fully supported, with someone following you in the camper van, I think that is absolutely possible.
And working to your own sleep plan, you could definitely, I'm positive you could do it in under 7 days for sure. I just think they're different things. They're lines in the sand. I didn't take it too seriously. It's great to have it down. So again, if that pushes someone else out the door to go and do it, then that's what it's all about.
They are inspiring, and it makes everyday people feel like things are achievable. We all see Jim Walmsley go out and crush 5-minute mile and over some 10,000 feet of elevation, whatever. But the FKT over the past 2 years has really inspired a lot of just regular athletes to go out and try these things. And if they don't succeed, it's just a wonderful time out on the trails. I think they're such a great thing.
Yeah, phenomenal. I don't think it's worth getting too caught up in the in the language of it. They're just different things. They're all great, and we should all be going out to try and push harder and do better.
How is recovery looking now for both of you, and what's coming up next for the rest of the year? It doesn't have to be anything next. Just asking. It doesn't even have to be running. You can tell me what. James, how are you feeling, and what's coming up next?
I'm feeling okay. Taking it steady, doing 30 minutes a day at the moment on the weekdays, and maybe doing I did something in Kentmere Fells at the weekend, and that felt okay. So I think I'll just gradually grow that. So I didn't sign up to anything for the second half of this year intentionally, because I didn't know how it was going to go.
Very wise.
Yeah, exactly. But since then, I've been signing up to things like a bastard, really, because now I feel quite good. So I've got a lot in the diary. So a few fell races, a few lakes-based kind of ultras, but I'm doing Mark's Viking Way in December, which is 147 miles following the Viking Way path through
terribly marked the Viking Way path.
Is it really? Because that's what we're following.
Yes.
December, James, is going to be horrendous.
I know
really
it's going
bad.
to be muddy, miserable, but I'm just doing it just so I can see the faces of those other people. So there's a few people from the Three Peaks. So it's like a alumni, Three Peaks like alumni meeting, basically.
A reunion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Getting the gang back together.
I want to do
like
Lake 100 next year, Gary. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how you get on.
How old are you, James? I don't want any competition for the V50.
no, but that's next year. So I'm going to see how you do, and then I'll give it a crack next year.
Right.
So that's like the ultimate race, isn't it?
Well, I think you do really well. You did share quite a few miles this time, last year, about June of last year. So yeah. Be quite exciting to see how you do there. What about yourself, Trish? It's coming up.
Well, I've got to probably give my ankle another week. I'm hoping that I can get back to some light training. I've got the Arc of Attrition in January next year. That's my next kind of big one. And then hopefully UTS and Dragons Back next year. So I'll be trying to spend as much time in the mountains as possible and stay injury free, I think, hopefully.
Would you try and get over there and recce? I know logistically for this one, to go up to Scotland's quite a big, especially for yourself, Trish, to go all the way to Scotland.
Yeah.
Hard to recce.
I think I'll definitely do. I definitely plan on Dragons Back being my A race, and I'll dedicate quite a lot of time to, making sure that I'm all over that route. I've got a good bunch of friends who are doing it, and who've done it. So I feel like and I've also volunteered for it before, and I'm going to volunteer this year for it as well, just because it's great. It's a great event. And it's just awesome seeing your friends go through, isn't it? And giving them the cheering.
Seeing your friends in pain and you're having a cup of tea. Can I ask one final question before we go into our quick five? Because we have lots of mums listening to this podcast. I get messages every week about the struggle, how you balance those 100-mile weeks with 2 6-year-olds. How do you balance it? And what's your sort of thought process about the amount of time that you give to training? Because I think a lot of things we're seeing that we hear from mums is the guilt of leaving the kids. How do you balance that? Any words of wisdom for perhaps new mums or mums that are struggling with that sort of feeling?
I think it is really, really hard. Like that is the bottom line. It is really, really hard. Kids really take it out of you as well. Like it's exhausting.
Damn them.
Exhausting. I mean, it's they are, my kids are super intense as well. And I take them to every club going, you know, just to try and drain the battery before bedtime. But yeah, it's intense. It's really intense. I think the key thing though is that it's recognizing that it's really important to have something that where you can just be and not be a parent for a small amount of time. Having that space, I think, is really important for your mental health as a parent, and you know, understanding and realizing that there's more to you than picking up spaghetti from the floor and stepping on Lego. But yeah, I think being organized, super organized with your time, knowing when you're going to do your runs. I mean, I'm really lucky that I work for myself. So when I drop the kids off, I'll either, if I'm not working with someone else, I'll do my own training in that time, and I'm really structured with that. It's tough, but yeah, organization, and don't quit. Give yourself the time that you need to do it. I'd say the biggest thing is don't pressure yourself. I've learned in a couple of years, just the last couple of years, I think that I've taken on board myself, is that you can get really caught up in what you should be doing and how you should be performing. But the reality is sometimes you've just got to take it steady. You just got to go easy, give yourself that time that you need to get back into it. And when you're feeling better, you'll have a better day. It's, you know, you're not the product of one run, you're the product of all your runs. And I think that's the key thing to remember with training and parenting, because it's tough.
Being kind to yourself, and and just using that run as joy, trying not to not add the stress, isn't it? The run can't be extra stress when you've had spaghetti hoops at your head and you've big fat poo-poo head all day and the trainer. James, you're a dad too. Do you hear that? Do you hear that voice of the
absolutely
good voice of reason?
Yeah, so just echo all of that. I mean, I have 3 kids. I try to make them pass with training as much as possible. So carry one on my back,
though, isn't it?
Carry one on my back. I actually did the 3 peaks with my daughter the weekend before the race, and drove between. My 9-year-old girl, I took her on a massive recce, disguised as daddy and daughter time, and we did the 3 peaks the weekend before.
You did a night ascent with her as well, like a night ascent with her.
Yeah, I did.
Bracket.
I found that quite ironic that me and my daughter, we did Snowden in the dark by ourselves.
Quicker than when you did it at the end of the race.
Sorry.
Did you do it quicker at the end of with your daughter than at the end of the race?
She's got the segment, Strava
segment. Exactly. Yeah. She beat me down, but I found that ironic that I did that with her in the dark, but then we were potentially going to have to go up the mountain with a mountain leader, Trish, weren't we? As adults. but that didn't pan out. So that was fine. But yeah, I mean, I have a fantastic wife, and I try my best to make it equal in terms of responsibilities, but it's not, and I'd love it not to be, but she absolutely does more than me. So just, thanks to the mums, because they're stars.
Oh, James, you're a good guy. Underneath it all, you are a good guy.
Not really. That was just bullshit, wasn't it? Come on.
Don't spoil it. Awesome. Well, thanks for your time tonight. But before we let you go, we've got 6 actually. So we'll do,
let's do 6
questions.
Come on. These guys are good. Let's keep them on.
Okay. First question for you, Trish. Tea or coffee?
Tea, 100%. 2 sugar. Boom.
You first, James. Most extreme place or weather that you have run in?
Lakes in the Day 2018, up on the Helvellyn Ridge. I thought I was going to die of hypothermia. It was my first ultra.
Were you with a child or were you by yourself?
No, I had left her by
top.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was
dropped her.
Yeah, exactly, dropped her. Yeah.
What about yourself, Trish?
I think probably the most intense place. So I ran a marathon in my patrol base in Afghanistan it's like 2009 maybe, just to raising money for limbless soldiers, and that was in like 40 degrees worth of heat. That was pretty emotional.
Oh, Surprised that never gave you a nosebleed. Oh, dear.
Yeah. Even my fingers hurt after that. That's the piece I remember the most. Like my fingers really, just lack of salt, and I was probably malnutritioned anyway. So
I got a pot noodle for that one.
yeah, I know.
Right, Trish, another one for you. It's Groundhog Day. You've taken the place for Bill Murray, but you can either run the UTMB or the Bob Graham round for the rest of your life. Which one would it be?
Oh, that's tough. That's a tough one.
It's a good one, that one. I wrote that one earlier. I was pretty proud of that one.
I'd say Bob Graham because, you know, home ground and all that. You've got to stick, you know, by British. I'll stick with that.
James, would you go Bob too?
But only if Gary could do it with me, because the Bob legend. So.
Yeah, some good history, like awesome history there, isn't it? Awesome history. Homegrown, love it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I totally would be on the UTMB. I'd leave you all three. I would be.
I thought you were over it, Eddie.
Lovely mountain trails, lovely refuges, all that cheese. You guys would be all alone on Bob Graham.
The beauty of the Bob is you can find a different route each time with the Bob. So, you know, UTMB is just one.
Yeah, there's a few variants on the UTMB. Few chain variants I could take. Anyway, it's all about me. Sorry, go on, Gary.
Right, James. What for you, James? Do you listen to podcasts? I know you do.
Yours.
Do you have a favourite non-running podcast? I don't want to share other running podcasts with our listeners.
Gary.
Yeah, I'm a massive cricket nerd as well, so I like the Wisden Cricket weekly podcast. Sorry, nerdy.
Oh, you're watching it at the moment, or is it finished?
Oh, the women's test against South Africa. Yeah, no, it's ongoing. I've been in the car all day, so I haven't been able to see what's going on.
I won't spoil it. Don't worry.
Okay, I'm going to catch the highlights now.
Question for both of you. Trish first. What's on your bedside table?
A book.
Well, what are you reading?
A children's book.
Oh, come on! You can go further. You can read a bit better than that now. Come on.
I think it's Little Roo. Little Roo. My kids are really into it at the moment. So yeah, that's on my bedside table. That and a Viking book. They alternate between squidgy kangaroos and violent
heavy literature. Yeah, heavy literature. Kids, look, my middle child, he's doing Vikings at the moment. He absolutely loves it. All that killing, and he's like, we're making shields so that we don't kill each other, so we recognize each other. And I'm like, okay, good day at school then.
Yeah. Don't poke with the pointy end. Not in the eye. Not in the eye. Not in the eye.
Awesome. What about yourself, James?
I don't have a bedside table because I sleep on a sofa bed because my wife sleeps with our children half the time. So I'm in a spare room.
We're getting to the depths of this relationship now, aren't we?
Yeah, there you go.
Less running, James. A little less running, a bit more time, a bit more dating.
Awesome. Okay, last one for you, James. Miles with friends or a solo run losing yourself on the trails?
Miles with friends, it's got to be, because you can just laugh and learn things that you wouldn't on your own.
Awesome.
I was going to say, you haven't got any friends.
Apart from you, no?
Miles with Trish. That's a new podcast, that one, Miles with Trish. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I feel we only touched the surface of that race, but I do feel we've got to know you both as real people, and hopefully people would just see that these guys just went out, they just towed the line, and they did something really truly epic, and how humble they are. I don't ever want to describe you as ordinary, but you guys are just we just went out, we had a great time, and we did it. And hopefully that's super inspiring to lots of people listening that thinking, God, I could never do something like that. But that sort of event where you meet people, you've probably made friends for life, or Trish is blocking James from social media as we speak. But thank you so much for sharing the journey. Keep in touch. If you do anything else, Mega, let us know. When you get a bedside table, James, let us know. And keep recovering. Keep recovering, but we'll keep our eyes open for what you're both doing next.
Cheers, guys.
Time tonight. Take care.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Bye.
At the end of that interview, I felt like they were our BFFs forever. We didn't really want to say goodbye.
It was great, wasn't it?
I was like, I really wish I'd done that race. It sounded like they made it sound so much. There was obviously a lot of laughing and a lot of hard work, a lot of effort. But
I'd do it and bin it off at Snowden. The first bit sounded great.
I actually joined the Cockbane Facebook page just to see all the bants that was going on and to see events, because I was like, now what was it we were saying, Trish and I were saying, like, now, like with the spine, I'm like, if you're going to go and do a race, you might as well do an absolutely massive one. If you're going to pay for racing, accommodation and all the training, you might as well. There's no point now going to do 50Ks. Spotted her supporting at the Snowdonia, the Ultra Trail Snowdonia, the weekend after. I saw her on the live feed with waving the big
excellent I saw the flare.
She's like, they're the flare, that's it. And she was like, yeah, they us. And I was like, straight up, yeah, I'm doing the flare.
I was thinking that when everyone was running through the flare, I thought, would that annoy me, or would that be I hope she's recovering well, because she had some foot issues, didn't she? And I hope her ankle's okay as well.
Anyway, thanks for coming on the podcast. Keep us up to date, James and Trish, with your next adventures. And if you're inspired to go and do one of those Cockbane events, join on the Facebook group. He's doing all sorts of crazy stuff. But I like, it is all crazy. It's all very like, it's tough, could be tough enough to do this. But if you want a no frills event, not expensive, and you want to do something different, that's perhaps is more focused on finishing rather than time, perhaps it's your thing.
I'm going to check out how much that cost, actually, because what is it? How many days? How many nights out did they have? Fed and watered for, say, a week.
I mean, we went down to the south of France. That was a lot of money to stay in a villa for a week. We could perhaps have just taken the kids on this. And
could have made sleeping in the toilet in some sports club in Scotland. Ooh, what we got? Upcoming races. Oh, another one that I'd like to do. Kentmere Horseshoe, 12 miles, 3,000 feet. Ooh, really?
That's a normal couple of hours run for me. But is that all in a one up and down?
Okay, yeah, I'm not 100% sure of the exact route, so there'll be probably a few lumps and bumps along the way. It won't be, there's probably be a few peaks you do, but the description is the longest medium lakeland race with fantastic ridge running on the grassy Eastern Fells. The race consists of a 12.3 mile, 3,300 clockwise horseshoe of the Kentmere Valley, including Ilbale, High Street, Kentmere Pike. Oh, wow. So, yeah, that is pretty good. Listed as just a 20K, so it creeps in as a medium race. It's not long, but it's not long medium.
I reckon it's probably pretty long if you're racing that.
I love that part of the, you go, it's such a contrast over there. Maybe not so much the Kentmere side, but in the Eastern Fells and the Far Eastern Fells, you can go for hours, not obviously when the Kentmere Horseshoe race is on, where you wouldn't see anybody, but the Eastern Fells, if you want a bit of remote and lonely time and solitude on the fells, they're lovely places.
Not now, we've said on the podcast.
Yeah.
We got the Dragon. I quite like the sound of these maybe one year.
The Dragon.
The Dragon, 100 mile and 50 mile coastal race along the Welsh coastal path. 2 distances. The 100 miles goes from Rosilly Bay to Cardiff Bay, or 50 miles from Margam to Cardiff Bay. Someone will point out that I said that wrong. The routes are ideal for a first attempt at 100 miles along the Welsh coastal path. So you can have a crack at this if you're a seasoned runner, or just looking for a quick time over some fast runnable trails. Oof. How much climbing is in those, but you're going to be exposed, aren't you? Hopefully it's not too hot, but hopefully you're going to get a bit of a sea breeze as well. Anyway, just think of me, I just run I want to talk about Debbie running in Badwater anyway, but I'm going to save it for next week. I'm going to ask her for a little bit of feedback of how it went. But I was thinking about Debbie running over Badwater 100, that when I was running in 40 degrees, and I was like, she's in like 57 degrees and she's running 135 miles. I don't know how she did that.
I wonder what the temperature in the night is, because sometimes it's like the desert, it gets quite cold.
30, I think. I don't think it was that hot, but you're still like, I would be, when I was running, like if I never ran over, I think my longest run on holiday was 14K, and I didn't take any water on any runs because I was wearing like a bikini top and shorts because I took it as like free tanning time and I didn't want my runs. So I'd be so dehydrated. When I came back from that took me like, I ran down to the sea and back up the hill back, and that was like an hour and a quarter, and I was like so dehydrated for the rest of the day, but the tan was great. But I was like, God, I can't imagine how, like, imagine, you know how you feel like when you run 100 miles, how you end up being so dehydrated. Imagine doing that, like how you keep enough. You can't keep enough fluid in. Anyway,
I can't comprehend these big, I know it's super hot, but these big, really long races, you know, it's 100 miles doesn't seem enough these days. These multi-day events and things like the Spine, how you manage yourself over that distance, I can't get my head around it just yet.
I'm going to have so much content for you. Maybe need tea. I'm hoping. I'm just going to carry my mug on the side of my rucksack, and everyone I meet, I'm going to go, is there tea? You got tea? A flask of tea. Anyway, I'll get some deets from Debs of how it went, and give her a little story next week. Anyway, what's coming up? You must be 2.5 weeks to go now, Gary.
We are tapering, yeah. So it's Friday, 2 weeks Friday, tomorrow then. So yeah, tapering now. So I think this week, I think it's still quite a big week. You know, I'm probably going to do about 70 miles of running. Only one quality session again, which is tonight. Back out with the Thursday, 6 times a K again, so that's good. And then over the lakes on, oh goodness me, I think it's Sunday. And what I'm going to do is just one section out and back, actually en route. I'm fancying, because it's going to be in pitch black when I do it, from the Bencatra Centre to Docra, which is probably quite an uneventful part of the route. But I remember last year going a bit wrong I need to go through a caravan park and over a bridge, and I remember just faffing on ages in the dark. So it'll be good to do that again. And also I'm going to do, what I did do, it's in Cuthbert's Way. I had my watch, all I had on my watch, all I looked at was basically my heart rate. I had one data screen was heart rate, and one was the map to just flip backwards and forwards. I did maybe once or twice look at the average pace, what I was doing, but I never, apart from every time the mile beeped, that was pretty much the only feedback I got from how fast I was going. So I didn't want any of the noise, basically, any of the distraction. And that's exactly what I'll do on Sunday. I'll set a heart rate level and then basically do that en route. And then when I'm finished, look at it and go, that's basically what I'm going to do on the day, roughly speaking. So it'd be good. There's no point in me saying I'm going to do whatever 13.5-minute miling, but then I do that run on Sunday and it actually works out. I'm doing 15-minute miling. I've got to be realistic about things. So that will be a good test. I say, actually, I've only got one quality session. I think I'm going to go and do parkrun on Saturday.
What's your local Maiden Castle one?
I'm not doing that one because it's not fast, the parkrun. I'll go only because, sorry, I said only one workout, but I'm pretty sure I've got two. And one is a 20-minute threshold run. So I thought parkrun's ideal. You know, if I take 21 minutes or 90 minutes, no one really cares about a minute here or there. So yeah, if I can drag myself out of bed on Saturday morning, I will head down to Hartlepool and do that. Non-running things happening for me. We're going to see Thor, the new Thor movie. So I'm going to be drooling over Chris Hemmings. Oh my God. It's like I had a proper man crush on Thor. He ticks all the boxes.
Be a man if you're gonna.
Yeah.
I don't really know any of those. The kids are too young yet to get into any of those. I think I'll enjoy them. I think I'm going to enjoy them when the time's right. And the kids have just started watching Friends from the beginning.
Oh, awesome! It's not like as politically correct now. When you look back on it, there's some scenes that are a bit like, oh, did they really say and do that back then?
But a lot of it actually goes over their heads as well because they don't really get it. The other thing that they've started watching is Mr. Bean.
Awesome.
Again, so unpolitically correct. And I watch it because it's all in like must be early 1990s, I guess. All the cars and everything, it looks so dated.
Yeah.
So dated, but I'm like, but that was yesterday. How can it look so
Doesn't seem that far away, does it?
What's your movie snack choice then at the cinema?
Well, I don't spend the big money with the big corporates. I'd probably take in some snacks. But left to my own devices, I do love a sweet popcorn. And I love a slush puppy, actually. I don't remember the last time I had a slush puppy. But all that is off limits. I'm pretty bang on nutrition at the moment.
Bang on. Yeah. Oh, yeah, apart from like the Red Bull and the meal deal.
Oh, yeah. I fancy that. But I'm like, oh, so we're going to see Thor. I've still not seen Batman. I've still not seen Top Gun. I'm like,
oh my God.
I know, but
we could go and see, we've got a babysitter booked because it's our wedding anniversary, but we were like, we've got a choice. We could go for like a sunset mountain hike, or we could go and watch Top Gun. Which one? Which one?
Well, I really want to see Top Gun.
Really want to see Top Gun.
I want to see Elvis too. I love Elvis. I don't want to see the Elvis movie, so I've got a backlog. We booked up the cinema, and I thought we were going to see Elvis. No, Thor. So
I don't think you're going to enjoy a couple of hours.
Yeah, feet up in the recliners. I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be a bit too noisy for napping, though.
Yeah. What about yourself? What are you up to?
Well, get back on the trails. I'm starting to turn my head towards now. I'm thinking I'm going to do a 100-miler around September time, late September time. I really struggle. I don't know how people do it, but July and August.
Oh yes, we're in July. Yeah, July. Oh, wowzers. Okay.
Don't have any childcare. So all running has to be done early morning, in the evening. It's a juggle plus working. So I'm not really going to plan. I'm just going to do what I can the next few weeks. Just try and we just build a big base basically. And then I'm thinking I'm going to do a 100-miler. I'm trying to work out where's the best time to do it. I'm not really that bothered. I want to just put myself, when I was out running in the heat, I was like, oh my God, so hot. I was like, but I love it. I love doing hard stuff. I love that. I love feeling horrendous.
I wish I had a bit of you, Eddie. That your enjoyment of the pain. I don't possess that.
Well, basically, I just want a bit of pain come late September, but I want it further enough away that I can still do a really good October, November, December spine block. But I do want to do I think I do want to do like 100 miles. So the Jura one that I did, the 80K, has a 180K option, and which is drivable, the finish from here, which is lovely. So it makes that easy. But then I was like, we could come back and maybe like do the Cotswold Way 100.
Oh, yeah.
Or I just come over and I run some parts of the Pennine Way. But I think I could probably swing both with the old husband. I could probably get a race and come over in October and do some Pennine Way.
Do some of the northern section. I'll do a few miles with you.
Well, I kind of thought I messaged my mate Jason Cavill actually and went, what would you do? What would you do, mate? I was like, could I recce the whole thing in 7 days? He's like, that's basically the spine, Eddie.
That's the race.
I was like, yeah. He's like, I probably wouldn't recce the first 100 miles because that's the bit that's going to be, even though like mentally it might be quite tough and stuff. Your hopefully all your physical bits will be there, like being able to navigate. It's going to be so don't bother about that, but there's going to be more people around. The second half of the course, go and spend some time over the dodgy bits, hike up Nick and stuff that you could be doing in terrible weather in the night, 3 nights in, feeling terrible, go and do those bits. So I kind of need to work out, but then I was like, it's so logistically, it's a bit of a nightmare because I have to fly over. I'm always aware a bit of my carbon footprint as well. I've got to fly over. What would I do then? Hire a car. Then I've got all my stuff. Where do I keep my bag? Do I just do out and backs? Do I hire a car and just sleep in the car, do out and backs? It's like...
You can cook up a little, but I don't live too far away from all that.
It's almost too much or do I hire somebody? Can you drive me? Can you pick me up from the airport? Can you drive me to this point and then meet me 40K later and feed and clothe me? This is a good service. This could be a business for somebody. So I need to work out how I'm going to do that. But I think that's probably what I'll do. I'm going to look for a September race, late September race, when the kids are sort of settled back at school and I can mentally get into it, find something that just remind myself how much I like to suffer, and then look at...
When's Lizzie Hawker's race, the Monte Rosso?
Last weekend in August. Is terrible. Terrible. Or is it the first? So UTMB is last weekend in August, and then it's Lizzie Hawker's. Both that time of year is not good for mums who've got to get kids ready and go back to school. I wouldn't want to leave them when they're starting back at school. Anyway, that's my sort of plan. So I'm just going to get back into the mountain. Watch this space. Probably next week I'll have entered 4 races. I just decided to do 4 races. Anyway, we found lots of reviews. You found them, I found them, and
we've got a glut of reviews.
Got a gluttony. You choose.
Do you do one at a time? We'll do one. We'll spread them in case we don't get any.
One. I can't take two. Two's too much. That's too much banging our own drummer. We don't need any more of that around here with your 3 trophies.
Petra, stranded in GB. She left this review at the 30th of June, 2020. One of the best running podcasts around. Love the show. Started listening around the time Marathon Talk finished. Left a big podcast-shaped hole in her life, but Run to the Hills is an excellent alternative, but quite different. Is that a compliment? Loves Eddie and Gary. You feel like you know them over time with all their quirks. Is that... Should we move on to another review? And the guests are always interesting too. Awesome. Thanks, Petra. I love that.
You're not stranded in GB any longer. Anyway, I did find people often sometimes say we don't know where to leave reviews, but on iTunes, I think it's quite easy to leave.
Yeah.
To leave reviews if you want to. You don't have to.
It is a really big help. I think the reviews and the whole iTunes algorithm, and it puts the podcast in front of like-minded people. So it is awesome that people spend the time to leave a review. And thanks very much, Petra. Well, I hope my overshare wasn't too much overshare.
And by the way, I forced the overshare because Gary didn't want to share that story. And I said, we have to, you can't, obviously we don't share everything on the podcast about the, I shared about my undercarriage infection. So I said, Gary, you've got to share. But everyone, it's got to be real, isn't it? It's got to be real.
It's so different to my wife, Lisa. I said to Lisa, do I tell everybody about how many times I shit myself? She's like, no, Gary, don't.
No, well, that's the thing. We both got husbands and wives that are much more reserved and wouldn't share. But that's what makes it work, isn't it? And everyone, it's the honesty people love, Gary. The honesty. We're just glad to be out the other side, but it's good. It's all good because it happens to everybody on the trails, and it could happen at Lakeland. And now you know: 1, no Red Bull in the meal deal, and 2, if it does happen, switch to the solid, savoury.
It will pass.
It will pass. All things will pass, and it will pass, and you can come out the other side. But you do just have to keep forcing the food down, even though you're like, if I was at home, there was no way I'd be standing here eating this peanut butter sandwich and shitting myself at the same time.
But anyone who's manning a checkpoint and they're not sure about what food to put on it, quiche. Quiche is the king of savoury checkpoint.
Was it like a quiche Lorraine, or was it like a cheese and...
cheesy one. I'm pretty sure it wasn't meaty, but it wasn't, because Lisa was like, oh, I don't know if I'd like this kind of crusty, flaky pastry. And it wasn't cooked. It was like straight out of the packet. So it was all pretty moist. And my goodness me, just that savoury flavour just cut through all the sweetness. And it was exactly what I needed at that point. And fueled me on. So thanks, guys, at Mobile. Very good job. That was episode 98. Thanks for listening, everybody. And thanks to Chia Charge for continuing to support the show, sending bars to guests, competition winners, keeping Eddie and I fueled on our adventures, and generally being an all-round super supporter to everyone out on the trails. My name's Gary Thwaites.
I'm Eddie Sutton.
And he fell over. Let's run to the hills.